The hearing of citizens, please pick up a card in the back of the chambers, print your name and topic clearly, and return the card to our board assistant, Kathy Tompkins. At the appropriate time, I will call you up to speak. Please stand for the flag salute under the direction of retired Sergeant Major Roger Mitchell and Riverview High School Color Guard. Excuse me. Thank you, Riverview Color Guard. Next, I would like to introduce our student representative, Emma Rudd. Welcome. Can you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Emma Rudd. I attend Riverview High School, and I'm a senior this year. This summer, I was privileged to be honored with the Girls Nation Senators. So this summer I went up to DC to create bills with women across America, and we were able to go to the White House and meet senators in the Capitol, and it was an amazing experience, and I'm happy to be here. I plan on applying to Georgetown University next year, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Wow. Well, welcome, and thank you for spending your time with us. I know earlier I had given you a certificate of appreciation, and again, best of luck in the future, and look forward to seeing what the future lays for you. Moving on to special presentations. I'd like to invite Mrs. Kelly Ellington, Director of Elementary Curriculum, for the Connect Our Worlds presentation. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, Mr. Hardy, Superintendent Bowden, and Ms. Rudd. I'm very happy to be here tonight. It's my privilege this evening to introduce a very special presentation to you, one that certainly epitomizes the power of partnerships and collaboration. We know that highly effective professional learning involves collaboration. We also know that teacher leaders take ownership of and seek opportunities for their own professional growth. Thanks to the partnership and collaboration with the Education Foundation of Sarasota County and the Good Work Foundation, 3 exceptional teacher leaders from Philippi Shores Elementary School will share with you this evening their recent professional learning journey. Roland Barthes once remarked, "The question for educators is not whether all humans can learn, but what conditions can we devise so that they will learn?" Tonight, you will hear from educators who created amazing conditions in which others can learn. In turn, their collaboration with each other and with others across the globe resulted in their own enhanced learning. So at this time, I would like to introduce Jennifer Vine, Executive Director of the Education Foundation of Sarasota County, so she can briefly explain how this collaborative partnership evolved and how Philippi Shores was selected.
Good evening. So just real quickly, how this kind of evolved and how it kind of took root for us is as we partner with you all with Ignite Education, the Teacher of the Year recognition program, we wanted to look for ways in which we can continue to amplify the value of the teachers that we have here in our county. We know that Sarasota County not only has some of the nation's best, we also know they have some of the world's best. And so for us, having that opportunity to put them on a global stage, while at the same time, they're going to be given opportunities to be the master teachers, for which we know that they are, but to also really take that time to also be learners so that they could come back and provide opportunities to our own students. And so for us, it was a real pleasure to work with our board and the Good Work Foundation to create this opportunity, because at the same time, some of the things that we have found are simply priceless. And I'll say to that, that is really restoring and giving them just the opportunity, I just love these guys so much, to just replenish the spirit of teaching, because by doing that, that will exponentially make impact. And so we were able to partner with the Good Work Foundation, really because we have mutual benefactors. And so it was a slam dunk, easy decision for us to partner with them as we piloted this program. And so we had a great joy and opportunity to work with them. And then how did Philippi Shores kind of come to fruition? Well, it really started off with talking to Executive Director of Elementary Schools, Chris Renoff, and he caught our vision. And he was very enthusiastic about it, which was awesome. And so with that conversation, knowing that we were looking for a team of teachers that would help us really kind of groundswell the work in one school, we knew we needed to do that. And so Chris said, I think I have the right person for you. And so we knew also when you pilot a program, you also look for great leadership. And we had that at Philippi Shores with Allison Foster. And so then the very great thing that really just made it a wonderful win-win all the way around is that Philippi Shores just happens to be an International Baccalaureate World School. So it all made sense. And so with that, I just want to turn it over to Principal Allison Foster.
Right. Good evening. Thank you for giving us the opportunity this evening to share the experience our three teachers had this summer in South Africa. When Chris Renoff and Jennifer Vine talked to me about this opportunity to send three teachers on a global professional development experience, I immediately knew it was the perfect connection to our IB philosophy. As an international baccalaureate school, we promote intercultural understanding and respect as an essential part of life in the 21st century. In the words of Gandhi, be the change you wish to see in the world. This learning experience gave our teachers and the foundation the opportunity to be the change. When we started on the journey, the plan was wide open, allowing for an incredible experience to unfold this summer. The Education Foundation had the vision to create a learning experience for educational leaders from our district to make a difference not only outside of our local community, but across the globe. I shared the opportunity with our staff and I asked for volunteers to participate. And I think we assembled the perfect team. We have Samantha Cataline, a natural performer who teaches our Spanish drama class, and she leads our school-wide musical production, which this year will be The Lion King, so connects with the African trip. We have Ann Matthews, who's our ESOL liaison, our technology pro, and experienced professional development trainer. And we have Jennifer Willis, our first grade gifted teacher, who's a curriculum expert with a passion for providing individualized instruction to meet the needs of all learners. The three teachers created the perfect mix for this PD experience. They spent 3 weeks in South Africa working alongside new educators in a digital learning center created by the Good Work Foundation. They worked day and night providing professional development workshops, designing lesson plans, and sharing proven instructional strategies. They also took the time to share their journey online on Facebook, Instagram, and an online blog. The global professional development opportunity created a lasting relationship between our staff at Philippi and the educators at the Digital Learning Center in Hazy View, South Africa. I want to thank the Education Foundation and Jennifer Vine for providing this incredible opportunity for our teachers, our district, and our community. Next, we're going to share a quick 1-minute overview of the Good Work Foundation, and then our teachers will share their experiences with you. And while you're watching the video, we have a little gift that we're going to pass out from South Africa, and the funds raised from the bracelets go to train, develop, and educate women and children in early childhood development in South Africa. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to the video.
Placed strategically at the heart of the community and designed to infuse the entire community that it served with access to a new way of thinking and learning. Adults plugged into the campus, schools and their students plug in, teachers and principals plug in, school leavers plug in, and even 3-year-olds plug in. This is a single point of entry to information and learning that maximizes access. Step 2 was a clear mandate to set up the hub to support and enhance state education. It would come alongside state education and ask, how can a futuristic hub of learning make the biggest impact? How can the hub deliver education technology, provide access to learning, and connect students to the 21st century world and its opportunities? Step 3 was the hub's commitment to use technology to create concentrated learning environments. The hub used tech to leapfrog existing challenges and bring relevant and exciting learning to rural Africa. This included learning on digital devices at the beginning, which was a novelty in itself, but soon developed to include massive open online learning, video lectures, and specialized free learning apps. Step 4 was the most important step: create a space of wonder-filled learning. If you're not having fun or being amazed, then you're not learning. A 21st century campus must include gamification, online learning, coding, music, life skills, and passionate facilitators who, more than anything else, love creating individuals who are addicted to learning.
And I'm going to turn it over to the teachers.
Thank you. We never thought that South Africa would ever be in our cards. It was always on our bucket list as something seemingly unattainable. To our delight, right after spring break, it became a reality. We learned that the Education Foundation was investing in teacher leadership through the program Ignite Education South Africa. They were recruiting 3 teachers. Our dream was about to become a reality, and just a short month later, our South African journey began.
We flew into Johannesburg and had a one-day whirlwind tour where we got to see the slums of Soweto, the Mandela's House, the Apartheid Museum, and it provided us with a good background to help us understand the people of South Africa, where they came from, which is strife, poverty, and oppression, and where they're headed. Less than 48 hours later, we were in Hazyview, Mpumalanga. The CEO of Good Work Foundation took us under her wing and settled us into our housing for 4 weeks.
So on Monday, we were exposed to a whole new world, and it made us realize that we actually didn't understand their lives at all. And we sure learned quickly. Our number one job was to bring professional development to a group of interns who were learning to become facilitators. GWF has 7 digital learning centers in rural South Africa, with Hazyview being the main hub where we spent our 4-week time. They bus in 4th and 5th graders 1 time a week from different schools each day to do 20-minute, 1-hour sessions in 20-minute segments learning maths, English, and language arts. They work with the facilitators in 20-minute small group rotations. And since GWF inception in 2000, I want to say 6, the test scores have jumped 30%, and they have been maintained every year.
So our interns were high school graduates that didn't have many options in the way of employment. South Africa's youth, which is ages 15 to 34, have an unemployment rate of 56%, leaving many of them without options or means of survival. These 24 students applied and were selected out of 120 to go through a 9-month internship program. Not only did they have commutes of upwards of an hour and a half, no food to eat, and concerns about their family, but they came every day committed to their learning. They were ready for every ounce and craved more daily. Their devotion moved us and changed us all.
During the next 4 weeks, we used every tool and trick of the trade that we have learned through Sarasota County's professional development to deliver and create relevant, informative, and progressive daily 4-hour workshop sessions. We focused on everything from classroom management, behavior students, learning styles, critical and creative thinking, lesson planning, open-ended questioning, and team building, just to name a few.
We felt really empowered by giving these interns a chance at becoming a part of the career we love. It was also very humbling as we got to know them on a more personal level and learn their struggles to meet their daily needs. It was inspiring to us to see that they were so happy with so little. The CEO told us that our leadership caused a ripple effect that was to come for years, and we know that we will be changed for years. We have a short video that our other Ann Matthews, our other friend that came with us, our colleague, put together for you to see what our journey was like.
And the singing you hear is actually our morning. We had a morning circle every day with GWF, and that's just them. They just break out in song every day. There's no preparation, and so everything you hear is them. So we hope you enjoy. The volume's up all the way. So as we returned, we reflected on how we could make this journey last longer. It was funny, when we got there, they said that our time would fly by so quickly, and before we knew it, we'd be right back at the airport. And we didn't believe them until we got back to the airport and we were saying our goodbyes, and we realized truly how fast those 4 weeks went by. It is a happy coincidence that after our spring musical in February, I decided to do Lion King Kids for the upcoming school year, not knowing anything about Africa, nothing like that. And who knew back then the connections that I'm going to be able to make with my students starting soon. We have auditions tomorrow and Thursday, and rehearsals start on Monday for our musical in February. And it truly will be an interactive experience. And for those involved. And fun fact, the opening song, Circle of Life, is actually in Zulu. How do I know that? Because our interns told us that. As well as tying into our musical, every student at Philippi Shores Elementary has been interacting with me during my class segment called A Minute in Africa. I have the pleasure of teaching the entire school. Every class period, we get together, and I start at the beginning, and I retell our journey to South Africa, showing pictures, video clips, including the one you just saw, and recalling facts and details with the kids. The feedback has been great, as I'm currently in my third rotation with them, and they ask every time they come to class, are we going to talk about Africa today? And I said, we sure are. And it ties right into our school being IB. And I hope from this that my students will not only think globally, but also act locally and globally as well to communicate and form connections with other students. For us, it truly was their happiness, their love of life, their helpfulness and kindness that touched our hearts and made us want to be better people. We want everyone to feel the same way we left feeling, wanting more time, more smiles, more singing, more positive energy.
So in my reflections and my work with the Education Foundation, I've had the need to connect at a deeper level with my colleagues like I was able to do in South Africa. So I have a passion for learning and research, and I've always enjoyed collaborating with others. A classroom can be a really isolating place, and after my experience in Africa, I knew that I wanted to synergize teacher to teacher to empower others to share their expertise. My coworker Tanya Quinn and I started working right when I got back from Africa to ask ourselves, what can we do to help teachers with their reading instruction? We knew from the past that many teachers feel lost about the most effective reading instruction because there's so many facets to it. We established bi-monthly meetings called Coffee Talk with Tanya and Jen that cover everything from struggling learners to acceleration to conferring with readers. We've already had our first meeting, and the camaraderie we felt made us feel like I had brought a little piece of Africa back with me. I hope to continue this work on a larger scale at some point, but this small ripple is a step in the right direction.
So even though there are still struggles in South Africa, we left feeling like we made a difference, and we kept coming back to the quote by Nelson Mandela. Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. So with that said, we would like to thank the Education Foundation, Philippi Shores Elementary, and the School Board of Sarasota County for supporting us on this journey. We look forward to a new adventure soon, possibly Finland.
Thank you.
Mrs. Goodwin.
Well, I have a question. First of all, are you keeping up with some of the new friends that you met in Africa? Do you intend to do some sharing with
Facebook friends with a lot of them?
Yes.
And when they post things in English, we understand. Otherwise, we are not quite sure what they're saying.
There's 11 different national languages, so it's hard to look it up. But we have some that are emailing us for reference. Some of the facilitators that were already in place have emailed us and asked for ideas or sent pictures, so it's really great to keep in touch.
Great. Well, I just want to say a couple of things. First of all, there are a lot of school districts that would never get an opportunity like this, and Paige works really hard with our professional development. But Jennifer Vine, you're a great leader. And you are doing many things with the Education Foundation that are really out of the box and creative and collaborative and all the things we talk about with our students. And I just want to thank you for your leadership, because I think that really is important to this process and many others that I know you're working so hard on. Thank you. I also want to say to Chris Renoff and to Allison Foster, who's, of course, one of my very favorite principals, that, your leadership is phenomenal as well. And we the things that you are doing at Philippi, and Chris, your leadership as elementary director are really astonishing to me. The arts integration really touches my heart. But, these things that are taking place in our school district, professional development, and the Community Foundation, the Education Foundation, working together jointly for the good of teaching. I just think this is such a remarkable trip and such a remarkable experience. And thank you all, because it's something that you all need, and it's something that our district needs. But we are so grateful that we have the ability in this district of doing some of these really out of the box things. So thank you to all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Zucker.
I'd like to thank you all, but I'd also like to let you know what your video did, what it brought back to me was smiles, teeth, eyes, happiness that I wouldn't equate with Africa. So it's given me a totally different viewpoint on Africa. And I thank you so much for allowing our schools, Jennifer, for providing the funding for our teachers to be able to go over and do something like this. I think it's transcending what it is that we feel about life right now, because we seem to be in a bad part of history where we don't really connect with other continents. And to see this was really heartwarming on all fronts. And thank you again to Allison and all of you for the great work that you do at Philippi.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Brown?
When you were in Soweto, you probably saw, too, the museum on apartheid, and I was touched by how important it was. The college students who really were the ones who led it, and it was because they wanted to stop them using their own languages in college, and these college students stood up and fought back. But also, there was these little lean-tos outside of the city, and they're just pieces of metal stood up and whatnot. But hanging behind them, there were clotheslines. And those little school uniforms those shirts were as white as could be. Mm-hmm. And those parents cared about those education. And those kids went to school looking like they just stepped off, anybody's bus. I mean, you wouldn't know where they came from, because they really care about their education. And you at least had desks where they were at. Yeah. I mean, I was at some of them that they didn't have the desks, or maybe now we've opened the world to them, and we're making sure that they have more desks. But these are kids who want to learn, and you think that only children of surgeons can be gifted, and be really smart. Their parents have to be college students, but we're finding no. We've got kids right here in our own community that we're looking over because we didn't think very smart kids come from there. And I think the same thing was true in Africa. There's some very, very smart kids there, and they can take us. And I think this is wonderful that we're using teachers as mentors to help other teachers, because I think this is what our teachers need. They need that connection, especially our new teachers. They need the help, just as those interns needed the help. We used to have a program, National Certified Teachers, where we used to give them bonuses for getting this national certification. And I think it was like a 5-year program or something, and it was extensive. And we were saying once you get that, we were going to pay them more to be mentors. And they no sooner got that certification than they dropped it. And now they're paying them for an SAT score. Maybe we can bring that back.
Year, so we are trying to do our part.
Yeah. So I would like to see where this is what we do. We reward teachers who are teaching other teachers and helping them. And that's what I think is what we need in our schools. I think because we need that sense of community in our schools, just like you were having it there. And thank you for what you've done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Almost let you guys go, but I just want to say thank you for sharing this. I've been watching this from afar and I think it's so cool. I could go on, and I know a lot has been said, so thank you to the Education Foundation, and truly thank you for putting yourself out there. I just feel like it was such an amazing human experience that not only is it over there, but what you're able to bring back here, your energy is infectious. I love it from a multitude of numbers. I mean, I think it's getting people excited about education. It's the global experience is what you said, which I think is tremendously important for our young learners. But I also think that it's something that Shirley, Mrs. Brown hit upon when we try, and I think, Jennifer, you've done a tremendous job from the Education Foundation, is to really focus on educators and really lifting up that profession so they can be celebrated, so you can be celebrated for the work that you do and all the other ones, because to me, those are the real heroes that we should be focusing on and celebrating and have parades for, as I've said before. So I loved hearing the story. I think, thank you for being, putting it out online, and I've watched you on The View and all that stuff. I think it's really cool. I hope it gets more people excited, because I think this is the kind of thing that I know it's generated a lot of traction, and rightfully so. And there's a lot of different ways that educators are touching the lives of people, not just only in students in their classroom, but like you said, globally. So I applaud all of you. Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your experience, and look forward to more.
Thank you.
Thank you. And that completes our special presentations. Moving on to the superintendent's report. Dr. Bowden.
Yes, we have two officers on duty tonight. I want to introduce them to you. The first officer is Officer Salvatore Giannino. I understand your students have taken to calling you Officer Sal. Officer Sal started his career with the New York City Department of Corrections in 1999 and worked in a maximum security facility as well as part of their emergency service unit for 6.5 years. He transferred to the NYPD in 2005, where he served as a patrol and housing officer as well as a community affairs and crime prevention officer. His career reached its pinnacle when he was selected to become a member of the elite counterterrorism unit for the final few years before retiring in 2018. He's married to his wife, Erica, for 16 years, and he has a son at Sarasota Middle School and a daughter at Riverview High School. We'd like to welcome you to Sarasota. Our other officer is Officer John Dominguez. I understand your students have call you Officer JD. He's a seasoned officer with 13 years of law enforcement experience and a commitment to public service. He's an Army veteran, serving 2 successful overseas deployments. He began his law enforcement career with the Hobbs Police Department in New Mexico. He served as a SWAT commander and a team leader for his agency. He moved to Florida in 2013 and continued his career with the Northport Police Department. His experience includes criminal investigations, narcotics, gangs, and SWAT. He also served as a case manager for juvenile offenders, where he provided social skills training and guidance through the Juvenile Community Corrections Program. He has a Bachelor of Science degree from the University of the Southwest and is currently working to complete his master's degree. He's married to his wife, Stephanie, for 14 years, and his children, Ryan, Alina, Dominic, all attend Sarasota County schools. So both of our officers are vested here in Sarasota County. Welcome, JD. That concludes the superintendent.
Thank you very much, and welcome aboard. Next, we will move to hearing of citizens. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to speak. When the time flashes yellow, 1 minute remains, and you need to begin to summarize. You must stop speaking when the buzzer rings. Please note that the respect for divergent viewpoints and civility will be shown at every board meeting. Whether you agree or disagree with the speaker, you should listen politely and respectfully without making any sounds of approval or disapproval, including clapping. So, I have 10 cards. First up is Brian Ellis.
Speaking to here? Yes. Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Brian Ellis, and I'm with Answer Coalition and PSL. We're here to begin the dialogue again about trans rights in Sarasota County schools. We're happy to learn that there are now trainings happening with Also Youth, and that a critical support guide has been created. I think another reason why we're here today is to learn more about these accomplishments. We want to not only to speak out, but to also reach out to you all personally and talk about them. Transgender students at Pineview in early 2016 began calling for our anti-discrimination policy to include gender expression and gender identity, for trainings for teachers and staff, and for trans-inclusive access to all school facilities, including locker rooms and bathrooms. Essentially, they were asking for basic respect. It's very heartening that you've taken such important steps in the right direction. I think that the rallies and speak-outs really opened hearts and helped to bring about these positive changes. And it took incredible courage. I'll never forget those moments when Nate Quinn spoke at this podium with a room full of hate-filled bigots dressed in white, breathing down his neck as he asked for this school board to acknowledge his dignity. The time for action is now. Since early 2016, when students first appealed to you, at least 69 transgender people in the US have been murdered. In Jacksonville, there's a suspected serial killer murdering trans women right now who has killed 3 trans black women this year. And these deaths are only an indicator of the suffering and oppression of the trans community. That's why we need you to show compassionate leadership in our community. Moral people must take action. We believe in this school board, or we wouldn't be here, and we know that you'll stand up for your most vulnerable and courageous students, and that's why we're here. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Stella, and I apologize if I do not pronounce anyone's name correctly. Please feel free to correct me. Stella Shedrinsky? Very good. Woohoo.
So thank you for allowing us to speak. Thank you for speaking as well. I wanted to expand on the trans rights issue, particularly to do with mental health. The thing is that our schools must encourage and foster individuality and autonomy and the development of a sense of self in our students. And part of that is the way that students interact with and experience their own gender identity. And I am glad for a lot of these steps that we're taking to move forward in allowing students to have a natural experience with their gender identity. But it is important to the mental health and in turn the physical health of each of our students to feel valid, to feel like they have dignity, and to feel like they are respected in their gender identity. And that's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next is Vanessa Nichols.
Hi, thank you all for allowing me the floor for a few minutes. My name is Vanessa Nichols, and I'm the mother of a 4th grader here in Sarasota County, and he is transgender. Several months ago, before my son's journey really began in his coming out process, I was actually planning a move out of this district. Due to the fear of the unknown, and as a mama bear, as many of us are, we fear for the hatred and hearing all the stories of discord. But I'm actually standing up here today to tell you a more positive, affirming story. To our knowledge, my son was one of the first to come out at the elementary school level, but he won't be the last as we continue to listen and use the affirmation model based on diagnostic criteria and professional guidance that all major medical associations have endorsed. I want to highlight what a positive experience feels and sounds like so Sarasota County can continue and to provide a continuum throughout the district. My son's school's administration met with me upon my first request at the end of last school year to discuss the coming school year. The then principal coordinated a team meeting at my request of administrators, school social worker, the school psychologist, the guidance counselor, and pupil support. With this team, we devised a gender support plan, which is very flexible, for my son in writing, which included numerous talking points such as who he would feel safe reporting to in the event of bullying, and which bathroom he would use, which the bathroom where he feels most safe. We then followed up with the same team of individuals plus my son's new teachers that were assigned to him this year prior to the start of the new year to ensure we were all on the same page in affirming and supporting my son. This plan will be monitored throughout the year, and like I said, it's important that it's flexible. Having a new principal made me a little bit uneasy at our school for this transition, but he went above and beyond, and he reached out to also youth to train his entire staff and to educate them on what this meant for my son and all LGBT kids. In my opinion, the pendulum is starting to swing in favor of growing support for our trans youth, And I'm delighted to see that Sarasota County is currently, at least in our experience, on the correct side of history with this discussion. However, my ask would be to make our experience the rule in Sarasota County for our trans kids, not the exception. We need this uniformity in our schools for our children's safety and their emotional well-being. We all know the statistics of bullying for our LGBT kids and the suicidality that goes along with it. School support is a must. My ask is that every school's administration in our county follow this example or similar protocol so our county can be known as a safe place for every student, and so parents like me don't have to consider leaving this district. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next is Ryan Francis.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Thanks for having me. My name is Ryan Francis. I'm here with the Party for Socialism and Liberation. I'm here representing the struggle that trans students face here in Sarasota and the struggle facing trans people across the world. While we celebrate the steps that Sarasota County has taken to represent the basic rights of trans students, we must continue to move forward and ensure that every trans student feels accounted for and respected by their schools. It's important that trans students feel as welcomed and respected as possible while they're in school, as they often have no other place to turn to. Family and friends are often eager to reject them and deny their humanity. Trans students face significantly higher rates of suicide as compared to other students. We must do everything we can to guarantee that the rights of these students are enhanced and protected as we begin the new school year. And we implore you to work with us and listen to the needs of trans students in a society that is so aggressively determined to deny them their right to live their lives as they desire. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, I have Brenda Kent-Dix.
Good evening. My name is Brenda, and that cute little human that was escorted out here because he's very cute and very loud is my son. He was assigned male at birth. And I've heard a lot of initials here today, and I'm very proud that you're all here, but you forgot one initial on the end, and that's I for intersex. That is a group of children that is never addressed at meetings, in the schools, in the community at large. If you were to look at my child, he appears male. If he was unclothed, he would, for the most part, still look male to you. But his chromosomes tell a different story. He was born with extra female chromosomes. And in fact, with an endocrinologist's help, we looked into all of his cells, and every cell has an extra female chromosome. So what that will mean in the future, we do not know. But because of our culture, he is assigned male, because if you look at him, that is what you see. And when he goes to school here in Sarasota County in 3 years, that is what the staff will see. But that might not be what Marshall sees. And medically, he would be right, whether he sees himself as a male, as a female, or as fluid. He might feel both. What will the school be able to do to keep my child safe? Will you ask him for now, to use a bathroom of a gender that he knows in his heart he is not, because his body tells you, the staff, the teachers, that that is the bathroom he should use? Because maybe that would be exactly the same thing as you asking me to go into a male bathroom every single day. And you would be asking him that as a 5-year-old, a 6-year-old, 7-year-old, and the emotional and mental damage would be lifelong. It is so important that we begin to understand things that we don't understand medically, mentally, and emotionally. Marshall is a medical certainty. How do I know that? Because I was of advanced maternal age, so we had genetic testing done. Otherwise, I wouldn't know. None of you have had your chromosomes tested, I'm sure. I've never had mine. That's how we know that he is intersex. Do you know how many trans children probably have the same thing and don't know it? Doctors are saying 1 in 1,000 children are born intersex, but they believe that it could be as high as 1 in 500. Please start to listen to science. This is not a bunch of children that just woke up and decided that they wanted to be a boy or they wanted to be a girl. These are humans, and they need to be listened to. Thank you very much. And I'm actually going to sneak out. I wish I could share everybody, but I do have a time.
I understand. Thank you. Lila Kreis, if I said that correctly.
Hi. In 2010, after the bathroom bill was passed that forbids trans people from using the restroom that they would like to use, the National Center for Transgender Equality conducted a survey in which approximately 27,000 trans American adults responded to, constituting only 2% of the trans population in America. 12% of the respondents reported being verbally abused in the bathroom. 1% had been physically assaulted. 32% restricted their fluids and food intake so they wouldn't have to use public restrooms. 8% contracted urinary tract infections and kidney infections from restroom avoidance. 58% experienced police harassment in regard to restroom use. 23 states in America don't have laws protecting trans people, and Florida is one of them. And 40% of the respondents had reported attempting suicide, which is a dramatic statistic when compared to the average U.S. population being at only 4.6%. Minority stress has an indisputably significant mortality rate. Trans people were once children, and the negative mental, physical, and emotional health outcomes that many trans people face are directly attributable to the institutional systems of oppression that we have in this country. Achieving social equity costs nothing but a collective effort, no matter how small each step may seem. Although dismantling the negative forces that minorities face can seem like a steep goal, as a group, people can achieve anything. Please don't forget your trans students. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I have Olympia Fulcher.
Hi, my name is Olympia. I'm actually not native to this county. I'm native to Palm Beach County, but I go to school at New College of Florida, which has made amazing strides in the field of accepting all people who have different gendering identities and differing sexuality identities, and we could learn a lot from that in our lower education. Almost everyone that I know that goes to New College of Florida says their pronouns regardless of whether they're trans or not. It just makes everybody feel comfortable and makes everyone feel safe. Our school is also known for having a multitude of all-gender bathrooms in every single building, and that means that I don't have to choose what bathroom I go into. I don't have to decide, oh, do I feel like a boy today or do I feel like a girl today? I don't have to make that decision. And every time that a trans child walks up to a set of bathrooms labeled boy and girl, they have to make that decision, even if that's not the way that they feel. I don't feel the same way all the time. I wish I would. I wish I did, because it would make my life a lot simpler. But the reality is that I just don't. And sometimes it would be a lot easier if I didn't have to think about it so much. It seems kind of counterintuitive, but just actually thinking about having to make a choice can cause so much stress, especially on a young brain that's growing and learning and trying to understand themselves even as their bodies are changing, which is already scary. And every time that you force them to make a choice between two things, which they might not even belong to, you're forcing more stress on their brain. And that can have physical symptoms, as high stress causes high cortisol levels, which can have physical impacts on their body. And of course, it can have mental issues. I mean, everybody here has listed the statistics. It's shocking how much higher the trans suicides rates are. And it's even more scary how much higher they are, especially when you consider that most of these kids are attempting suicide or committing suicide at ages under 15. That's a terrifying age. I myself am 20 years old. And it terrifies me that I could ever have a child or know someone under the age of 15 who tried to kill themselves because they had to make a choice. They were forced to make a choice between two things that they don't fit into. Humans don't fit into boxes. We're very complicated creatures. I don't think any one of us could say that we fit into category A or category B if it was something, I don't know, trivial, like what is our favorite pizza. Probably most of us don't have a definitive answer on that. And we can't really expect people to have a definitive answer when it comes to their gender identity either. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I have Aola Whitworth.
Hello, I'm with PSL. My name is Aola Whitworth. That's Party for Socialism and Liberation. And I call upon those with power to make a difference in the lives of the youth of Sarasota County to take action. I do not ask this simply because it benefits trans students and their peers. This issue doesn't exist in a vacuum. It is a systematic issue that points out the flaw in a society built specifically for white, able-bodied, cisgendered American people in mind, rather than the diverse spectrum of identities the various people in our society have. We have to acknowledge how the trans rights struggle is linked to all struggles for justice, and that is an injustice to all, injustice to one person is an injustice to all people everywhere. No student is free to learn and grow in a healthy environment when others are forced to conform to oppressive standards and expectations. We must recognize what we are dealing with here, an injustice. While I commend and applaud the previous efforts this administration has done in making Sarasota County schools a good environment for trans youth, I can't let the same administration forget that there is still work that must be done. A community that boasts its inclusivity cannot do so while not employing a trans-inclusive, non-discriminatory policy and not allowing trans students access to all student facilities and events. The rights of trans students often go ignored because they are a community without the same privileges as others. This links their struggle to the struggle of poor communities, Black and brown communities, immigrants, and other oppressed peoples. This is why anyone who considers themselves an advocate for the liberation and safety of all people must also consider themselves an advocate for trans rights and must take action to defend those rights. The struggle for liberation is made from steps like the ones this administration has made so far for trans rights, and it is still a struggle that must be continued for the sake of all oppressed peoples. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I have Ruth Beltran next.
We are back. Hello, everyone. I am with Answer Suncoast and also with PSL, and we are back to start the dialogue. You know, we figure that the start of the new school year is perfect timing so that we can start the dialogue along the lines of trans rights and what progress you can make during this new school year to take a stand for trans rights. So I am here to recognize the efforts that you have made, the trainings that you have coordinated with also youth and that your administrators are doing now, but also to encourage you to continue this work and continue making progress and to adapt an anti-discriminatory policy that does include gender expression and gender identity. And also to have inclusive access for trans persons for all schools facilities, including bathrooms and locker rooms. So I'm here to just encourage you to continue to embrace the change that we see in the world, which is that we do have a growing trans community and we do need to make room for them, not only by tolerating, but we need to embrace. And you as a school board are able to do that in the policies that you pass in this new coming year. So please do the right thing and take a stand. Don't wait for an incident to take place. Or to have, something bad happen. Be embracive right now. Open your arms to your trans students and take a stand so that they can feel embraced just as your regular students do. Thank you.
Thank you. And last I have Nathan Bremer.
Good evening, Madam Chair, board members, Superintendent Mr. Hardy.
My name is Nathan Brimmer. I'm the Executive Director for Also Youth. I've met some of you, but I'm just meeting you for the first time, so it's a pleasure, and congratulations. I have been the Executive Director of Also Youth just for the last year, a little bit longer, but we have a 25-year history here in Sarasota empowering LGBTQ+ youth and their allies and working to create inclusive communities. I'm also a parent and a former educator in Hillsborough County. I taught in 6 schools over a 10-year period. So I represent that background, but really the thousands of voices that have come through our doors in the last 25 years and even those that haven't been able to do that. And I've really had the pleasure of partnering with this district almost from the first day I started. And as an educator, that was exciting. And I didn't know what to expect because I had heard Sarasota is not like Hillsborough or Pinellas. But I'm really happy to report that from the top down and the bottom up, it's been a pleasure to work with you all in partnership. And I'm excited about how we started this school year even stronger than ever before. Superintendent Bowden put together a leadership institute that we were proud to be a part of, and one of the core focuses is how to work with and how to support the families of our LGBTQ+ youth. And it was very successful and very well embraced by all of our leaders, both principals, assistant principals, and district leaders across the board. And you've heard a lot of the data. Our district, your administration, they know what the statistics are, and they're committed. I have worked very closely with student services. I've gotten to know a lot of the staff, a lot of principals, a lot of assistant principals the last year. Sonia Figueroa-Alberts and Deborah Jackalone especially have been so committed to doing the work for the students here in Sarasota. Our families and students, and you heard parents talk, they want our educators to know about and expect us to have best practices, and I want you to know we are putting those in place in partnership. We've got research-supported best practice happening. We're doing anti-bullying curriculum. We are approved to provide that training. There are others that are providing the training as well, and we're providing resources also to administrators at the school level. And what you may not know is by supporting LGBTQIA youth, really it improves school climate for all the youth. The statistics that you haven't heard yet is when we do focus on that, when we have 11 trained allies in the schools, the school bullying incidence is not just for our kids, but for all students drops. And that's important. By really focusing on just this part of the population, it really improves everything. I know that our district is an ally for our kids. I know I can't say that for all the districts in the Suncoast, but I'm really proud of the leadership our district is taking because I will tell you, I do get calls from Charlotte, I do get calls from Manatee, and I am getting calls from DeSoto. I'm honored to continue the partnership. Thank you all for your leadership in supporting our LGBTQI youth.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Brown?
I know we don't normally comment, but you probably don't want to wait for the rest of our meeting, but I want to thank you for coming out tonight and understanding, where we're coming from too. I must admit, when Nate first appeared to me or to us, I didn't know what that was all about. I mean, now I look back and I'm like, oh, that's what that movie was about. They were trying to tell us, and after speaking with Nate and understanding how he didn't just wake up one day and, they were struggles he had, and until somebody named it, he didn't realize that's what it was. And I think it's great that Vanessa, you're coming here, and Brenda, she doesn't know what's going to happen with her child. And that's the thing. It's how these children are born. It's not something that happens to them as they're growing up. We don't know, we don't understand all of those things yet, but what we need to do, and I hope we're working with you on that, is to be accepting of these children and do every child every day. What we have to do is meet their needs and help us to learn. At least for me, I don't know everything, and I'm sure you all don't know everything either. But as we're learning and we're understanding this more, I feel this is such a much better discussion we're having than hurling insults at each other, trying to understand. And I thank you for coming to us with understanding, and I appreciate you stepping forward, and thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Goodwin.
Well, I also want to say thank you for being here. I started working with Equality Florida and Safe Schools about 4 or 5 years ago, and I started going to some seminars and sessions in South Florida when that was the only thing there were, and then we started meeting in St. Pete, and I think I didn't go this past year because I had a conflict, like a campaign conflict or something, but at any rate, I believe that we do act differently than we would at New College, because these kids are not in college, and you all understand, you get that. There's a more sensitive situation with our elementary students, and our middle school students are different, and our high school students, but we do care, and we do feel that we need to work with and be sensitive to all the needs of our students. And I am here to tell you that I started working in the 1970s, back in the Civil War, with when I lived in Boston, and it was a different time. But I think that we are on the road to doing some things. Give us time. Let us catch our breath. It's a transition and an education for a lot of people, but I think we're on the right track, and we do care. We do have a great partnership with Nathan, and also, which we didn't have before he was here, and I really think that we're on the right track to doing a lot more in regard to our students, and yes, students that have the issues of LGBTQIA are all over our school district, and we can't say what grade or what age students experience these things, but we have to listen, we have to respect, and I think we're attempting to do that. Please help us.
Thank you, and to echo, I appreciate everyone coming. I think that I also appreciate some very intimate and stories being shared, so thank you for coming today. Sorry, my microphone on. Moving on to any additions or corrections to the agenda. Dr. Bowden?
Yes, there are a number of attachments that were added. I just want to go through those. Item 7, approval of the instructional classified personnel report. There is an addendum to that. Item 24, approval of the final budget amendment for fiscal year 2017-18. That summary has been attached. And there are a total of 5 reports that make up the attachments for item 25, approval of the annual financial statements for the 2017-18 school year ending June 30th, 2018.
Very good, thank you. No items pulled for comments, sorry. Go to approval.
I move for approval of the consent agenda with additions and changes as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any comments? Seeing none, members, please vote on the agenda before you, or motion, excuse me, before you. And there's an error, so if we want to just move straight along, let's do a quick roll call. Mrs. Brown?
Aye.
Mrs. Zucker?
Aye.
Mrs. Goodwin?
Aye.
Mr. Robinson?
Yep.
Chair votes aye, and the motion passes unanimously. Moving on to new business.
I did want to put one item for
Go
comment
ahead.
after.
Yep, sorry.
And that's the item 9, the reimbursement of attorney's fees. This is the attorney's fees for that, I would say, bogus public records request that was made on not only Mr. Hammett, but also fellow board member Jane Goodwin and I don't know if politics had anything to do with it, but I know an ad was placed on Facebook about it. But it's frustrating to me that somebody can come and throw these kinds of charges out. I mean, and it seems like this person who filed this, the original complaint against us, did so without really the authorization. Is there any thought that we can go back and get these fees back from the person who truly caused the problem, or is that just a pipe dream?
I'm sorry, Mrs. Brown, is that a question to council?
Question to council.
Mr. Artie?
Originally, the case was brought against 3 individuals. That case was dismissed by the court, and the case was refiled against the school board. The organization that brought the suit later, from what I read in the paper, And from what I read, that was filed in the court file. The board of directors of that organization indicated that they had not authorized that suit from being filed, and it was thereafter dismissed. So that organization, although the suit was brought in its name, ultimately wound up disavowing that lawsuit, and therefore it was dismissed. I think it would therefore be difficult for the board to seek some action against that organization. If that organization has its own claim for something improper happening, then I would think it would have the claim perhaps against people that it say did something wrong.
But couldn't we sue them and then have them?
Hold on, Eric, hold on. Did you get the answer?
Well, yeah, and I would imagine that would be finding out who was the real person who behind all of this, too. It's just...
Well, it would be certainly unraveling a number of things. The reimbursement is $1,400.
Right.
Is it theoretically possible to do something, to take some action? Perhaps, but I don't know that that would be cost effective in this case, in these circumstances. And also you have the situation where the board would be taking action against a group that's disavowed doing something in the first place. So it wouldn't be certainly the cleanest way to go about it. And the case was dismissed, therefore raising the right of individuals who were sued to reimbursement, but there never was an adjudication on the merits of it all, so there could be an issue about whether the response was timely, which was really the issue. I know there was an issue about when the individuals themselves were notified the request. So given all of that, I'm not sure it would be in the board's interest to seek reimbursement.
Yeah, but I agree with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Goodwin?
Well, I just was curious because I know that you had some fees that were involved, and maybe we might have some fees that also would come up as a result of this. So now we're adding more and more things. I mean, is there something that we should look at in the future?
Well, I think...
Or Mr. Barfield or someone.
Well, if in different circumstances, perhaps. Again, it's possible certainly that the other two individuals, I haven't seen any requests for reimbursement, but I know, for example, that I spoke with counsel that was representing you, so there may be something there. There were some fees to me and my firm once the school board was sued, although given the rapidity with which the case was dismissed, it was not a huge number. So you're right, there could be additional, but I still don't know that it would necessarily be a cost-effective issue for the board in this case, but that, of course, is a board decision. But that I would not encourage it on the economics of the matter.
Thank you. Mrs. Goodwin, was that Mr. Robinson?
I would be supportive of paying if board members had legal fees that came as a result of being a member of the school board, and then they were not adjudicated to have done anything at fault, then I would be supportive of making sure the legal fees were reimbursed. And if I don't have a problem with Dr. Burden bringing that forth at the next meeting. Do you need a motion for that?
I don't believe any motion's in order because no one has requested any such reimbursement.
Well, I can tell you, if somebody requested any such fees, I would be inclined to vote yes for that reimbursement.
Mrs. Zucker?
I think that everything that was done is done. I would not want to poke a bear. I think it would cost us more in the long run, that we should just move ahead as we've had to do in several other instances where it doesn't concern legal fees, but it concerns people that are suing us. And is it going to cost me more over here or less over here? And I think we're better off just leaving it go and moving on.
Thank you. Seeing no other comments on that, I know there was a comment on the consent agenda. So we are moving to number 7, item new business. I have item number 26.
I would move that the interagency user agreement. I would move that the interagency user agreement between the Sarasota County Sheriff's Office and the School Board of Sarasota County, Florida, be approved as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Are there any comments? This was added to new business, given timing, I believe.
That is correct.
Okay, just wanted to clarify.
Maybe you want to explain it a little bit, or?
Dr. Bowden, would you like to explain the item?
All right, well, looking for the chief and the executive director, and they have stepped out to the lobby. Either or both would be fine.
We could vote and then get an explanation?
I can give you a brief explanation, probably
Mr.
not
Hardy.
as detailed as the chief could, but this is an agreement between the school board for the police department and the sheriff's office to allow the use of certain computers and inputting data.
Yeah.
It's just one, and you will be getting some more in upcoming weeks, items where our police department will be sharing facilities or working with the sheriff's office particularly on various items, particularly of infrastructure. There'll be a dispatch agreement. There'll be other similar agreements. This is just a way that we can leverage with one of our partners in law enforcement their facilities and expertise.
That's the really, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
That's the only explanation that I wanted, that this again is where our internal police force is working with our partners in the community to bring services to us that really aren't going to cost us a lot, but in fact, I think the financial impact is zero, but we're going to have, through agreements, we're going to be able to share the information. And it's a positive, I think, for both of us.
Correct, and these are modeled on agreements that the sheriff already has with municipalities.
That's correct. Very good. Seeing no additional comments, members, please vote on the motion before you if you haven't already. Although if there are, so there are technical issues, which is completely fine. We can do a voice vote. Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Mrs. Zucker?
Yes.
Mrs. Goodwin?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, and the motion passes unanimously. That concludes new business. Are there any comments or announcements? Seeing none, the next public hearing to adopt final millage and budget meeting is September 11th, 2018 at 5:15 p.m. Our next board workshop is September 18th, 2018 at 8:30 a.m. The next regular board meeting is September 18th at 3 p.m. We are adjourned.